Hello, Dad. This is Jay Warren. This is the Dadhood Journey podcast, and today's topic is this: dead tired. Let's do it.
Hi, my name's Nico, and you're listening to my dad, Jay Warren. This is the Dadhood Journey podcast. Thanks for listening. Pretty good. Now can we listen to it?
Yep. So this morning, I am so freaking tired, and as a dad, I know you know what I'm talking about. Last night was a rough night with Nico. He was up 3 different times. One of the times he just didn't want to go back to sleep and having full-on conversations about God knows what. And then one of the other times I just could not fall back asleep, and I was up for like an hour. So this morning is a coffee morning. It's going to be a coffee day. And you would think that, if you've been following this podcast for a while, my son is 4.5 years old. You would think that those kind of nights, because you're a kiddo, don't happen anymore. You think if you're having dog dead tired days, it's because of your own doing during the night, like up working late on a project, or your own reasons for insomnia, and the kiddos are sleeping through the night and no problems there. But it still happens. We've been training Nico to stay in his own bed. We switched things around this weekend and got him a bunk bed so he can have more kind of like sleepover stuff and something new and something fun. But it was just all brand new to him, and so he's super excited about the bed, and then he was scared about the bed, and he woke up and he looked up and saw that the roof was caving in because he was on the bottom bunk, and that was all new to him, so it freaked him out, and he was just wired. So all of that will settle out, as it always does. If you're in newborn world and intermittent sleep and really tired days are part of your world right now, I feel you, Dad. It's going to change. It's going to get better. That first year is super tough with sleep. The first 3 months are the worst. Next couple months, getting to 6 months is way easier, and then much, much easier into the first year, and then usually by a year it gets a lot easier. If it happens sooner for you, Dad, awesome. Write a book. Tell everybody about how you did it. Make $1 million. If it takes longer than that, know that you're not alone. There's a lot of kiddos that just do not sleep during the night. Nico is pretty good, so that's fine, but every once in a while, whether it's a growth spurt, it's always around a growth spurt. Like his sleep gets super wonky, and he's kind of going through that right now, as well as it's been super hot, full on summer. So nobody sleeps good when it's hot. And then on top of it, new bed, new layout in the bedroom. It's just a big change, and his brain's itchy from taking in all that information. So with those dead dog tired days that I'm headed into, I have a full schedule of patients ahead of me. I have a lunchtime meeting. It is not a day where I can just like chill and take naps. So it's a coffee day. I'm heading to get a coffee right now to fuel up and get some energy going. And hopefully tonight is a much better night, 1 for Nico and then 2 for me. I'm going to bed early so that today is an anomaly. It is just one of those things that happen, and it will get way better. I know. I'm thankful that I'm out of that realm. But for you dads that are in the mix of newborn world, or going through sleep regressions or whatever it might be, no, it does change. It gets better. The tiredness you're feeling on a day-to-day, hopefully not, but maybe sometimes a week-to-week basis, it'll get better. You'll start getting rest. But just knowing going into newborn world, there's an intermittent sleep is just going to be part of your life for months. And then once it gets better, be on the lookout for milestone times. That's what I tell the parents that I work with in my practice, that the 4-month sleep regression that happens, or what they talk about happening, is because at around 3 months is when a baby's being able to hold their head up on their own. And so they're orienting themselves to the world in a totally different way. They can actually move their head around to look at what they want to look at, rather than them being flopsy bobbleheads that are just looking at where they end up or where you put them. So they're getting so much more information to the brain, and that just causes them for their sleep to get wonky. The same thing happens when they sit up. That's around 6 months, and 7, 8, 9 months is when they start crawling. That's a big time where sleep gets definitely wonky. And then when they start walking is a big one. Walking's a big one, because that's so much information going on in the nervous system that it bombards it, and it's just a lot for them to assimilate. So on top of it, they're starting to communicate. If they're not talking, they're able to communicate, because you can do like baby sign language and things like that. But that time, a lot of times kids will have night terrors. I know Nico did. Like, he'd never had those before, and he'd wake up in the middle of the night just crying like crazy and inconsolable for like 20 minutes, and he was awake but not really awake. The lights were on but nobody was home. He was just crying, and like you couldn't snap him out of it. And that's really typical of like 1-year-olds and hitting a big milestone like walking. The analogy I use is, imagine if you were to head into a brand new job and you were learning all this information and you're wanting to do well and just overwhelmed by it all. Like, you're going to have an insomnia problems. You're not going to sleep as well. So the same is true for the kiddos. They're not worried about walking, and they're not worried about holding their head up, and they're not wanting to do that well. That's just innately driven, but it's a lot of new information for them. And so insomnia shows up as just their sleep being really off. They're skipping naps, super tired, but won't go to sleep. Once they fall asleep, they're not staying asleep. So that's all part of the first years. And again, in a self-care sense, doing as much as you can to get your rest when you can get your rest will allow you to sustain, or withstand, I should say, those times, because they do come and they will be coming. And it just allows you to have more energy to deal with all the obligations you have the next day. Because, when your kiddos crazy town that night before, whether if they're sick, that's obviously a time where it's really hard because they're not sleeping well, or they're going through one of these sleep challenges. Then the next day, the world doesn't stop. You still got to do what you got to do. You got to work. You got to make sure the house is running fine. All those other obligations you have don't stop. So get your rest when you can. I'm headed in right now to get a nice hot cup of coffee that's got lots of caffeine in it to carry me through today. So if you are going through any kind of like sleep challenges yourself, because the kiddos having challenges, all I can say is it'll change. Take it what you can off your plate the next day if you can. Fuel up however you can fuel up to get through that fatigue you're feeling, and know that like it will change. Even if you're in the newborn phase and it's day in, day out, it will be a weeks or maybe even just a couple months, but there is a light at the end of the tunnel. You will feel rested at some point, although right now you probably feel it in your bones that you're never, ever going to feel rested and have energy to do anything else. But it's coming. So if you're going through that time in the Facebook group, post your comments, let us know what's going on, how we can maybe support you. And if a dad's having trouble and you see that and you have some words of advice and things that can help, more so than what I put here, do it. Support those dads out there. Get supported yourself. So until next time, take good care of yourself, take good care of your families, and we'll connect on the next episode.
I hope you enjoyed that episode. You can hang out with other dads in our Facebook group. Just go to Facebook, search for the Dadhood Journey, and apply to get in. See you there, and see you on the next episode. Thanks for listening. Bye.
Perfect.
There you go, Dan.